Yes, certainly.
Lovely. Thank you.
Oh, we're not doing that.
Okay, that's fine.
Brilliant.
I'll have to ask you to put your backpack in a locker if you
Oh,
don't mind.
absolutely.
They're inside.
Uh-huh.
Look left and right and you'll see them. Take the key with you and then you'll come back out.
I see no drink around either, so leave the water bottle in there too.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely, I guess. Thank you.
The Viceroy when he was his lordship's the oldest son. Okay. He was the Marshal of England. Yeah. And the peacock dress was made in India and only worn once. And it was on display here for 5 years, but it was which was not the same profile. So anyway, you go upstairs, all the way around, through the door, and you come back under there. There's another unusual
And then it takes the evening range. Yeah, you will talk about that. So, yeah, so I think over the years, you know, they have, you know,
Sort of interest, what would this room be used for?
well, when the house was first built, it was just more or less an
So
extension.
it's on film, yeah, is that okay?
Oh yes.
Sure.
It was kind of, so people would have come in there, you know, when they were coming for anything. They'd be immediately bowled over by all of the architecture and the figurines, and they'd come through here, and it was a bit the same actually. There were more figurines in here with niches on the walls, and it was all about impressing people, and so people were encouraged to browse. However, about 20 years afterwards, he decided to convert this into the ballroom.
Ah, okay.
So I think balls were obviously very popular at that time, so he wanted to sort of have somewhere that they could sort of entertain people in that way. So they relocated all of the statuettes that were in here and plastered up all of the niches, and then sort of added all these extra touches. So the wall sconces, the surrounds to the doors, the 4 altars at each corner, the 2 at the front here double up as stoves, so there was a minimal amount of heating. Although I think this room would only be used in the summer anyway, really, when it was warm and light sort of thing. And they also commissioned all of the furniture, which, as you can see, you know, followed the contours of the room, so fit very nicely.
Very nice.
We think that the floor was already in place, so it is quite bouncy.
I noticed a bit of the
so
movement
absolutely
there, yes.
Appropriate for dancing. And we do think that it was already in place and that it wasn't a new floor. Whether there'd always been those thoughts about changing it, I don't know. But when under these columns, which were additions at that time, the
sort of marble ones.
Yes, it's actually something called scaglioli, which is kind of like a conglomeration of fragments of marble and plaster and pigment and glue.
It's almost like a faux marble type thing.
Yeah, but it still looks like marble.
Oh, it looks great.
The whole
Yeah.
idea.
It's amazing.
Yeah, probably a bit cheap. But if you see, there's a sort of the floorboard kind of goes round in a circle, and it goes underneath those.
Oh,
so for that reason, we believe that probably this was the original floor. You know, and it happened to be, you know, pretty bouncy anyway.
Brilliant. So yeah, these whole 2 rooms are pretty much just a look how wealthy I am.
Yes, exactly. That was absolutely it. And I think it does it quite well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'd like to have this in my house, you know. Obviously not the dust in,
Well,
that's
I'm
going to
sure
be
we all
annoying.
would, yeah. I don't think any of that gets cleaned up there, you know. Apparently, it was repainted about 100 years ago, but they never touched the gilt.
It still looks perfect.
From here it looks wonderful, yeah. It's probably a bit tarnished. It's in the same way with all the chairs. Obviously, since the National Trust have taken over, which was in 87, they have, you know, had a programme of restoration, and all of the chairs have been recovered and re-gilded. and you'll see in the other rooms, you know, the wall coverings have all been replaced. So it all looks splendid, you know, and how it would have looked in the 1760s. But it is all the same as it would have been, you know, the same specs and everything.
Done in the original painting.
The one chair over there, they didn't do any re-gilding on. You could
On
see
the
it.
right there, yeah, on the...
So, you know, I guess that's probably what it actually looks like up there, close to.
A little bit duller,
doesn't
but
matter from down there.
looks
And the odd cobweb, well, you know.
adds to the character.
Yeah. It is possible to get on that bit round there. You actually can come out onto there. It's like a little walkway around.
Oh, really?
This whole structure is like a plaster sort of round within the square sort of walls, and it's all sort of.
Oh, so there's like an additional room outside.
Yes.
Is that what the cross section is?
Around here, at the back sort of thing. So you can get to, and there are flues that go up from these sort of stoves and things. So there are, as I say, it is possible to walk around and I think get up to there. Not for the public, and I've only been once.
I bet that's a view though, isn't it?
It was brilliant, I have to say. So there are beams that sort of support it, and the beams go right up and support the dome as well.
I was going to say, that's fantastic, because it gives the great impression of just being just a freestanding dome, but if it's got the...
No, it's got like...
cage around it, effectively.
Yes, that's right.
Brilliant.
Yeah. But, yeah, it's great. At the same time that I went on this like behind-the-scenes tour that, you know, they allowed us to do, we actually went out on the roof as well, and that was pretty splendid. Walked around the dome and everything.
Amazing.
And again, it was a nice day, so you could sort of see out. So.
No, I'm jealous of that as well, because that does be amazing up there.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Which way?
It's this way.
That way
if you
first,
don't mind, yes. It gets a bit congested in certain areas, so it's better if we've got everybody going the same way. But it goes in a circle, so you come back across there, where because don't forget to have a chat with Mrs. Garnett, the
Mrs. Garnett?
resident housekeeper. She was the first housekeeper here. Very interesting story. So don't forget to
Brilliant.
chat with her, and then you'll come back round to the library here and back.
Thank you very much.
This is the bedroom, and you're in what is basically the entertainment hall.
Okay.
So it looks like, I can just show you. So this is so that's where the Curzons live today, the northeast wing.
Still here, are they?
Still here.
Yeah.
That's the kitchen and the canteen, as you know, cafe.
Yeah.
As a name. And then this is the entertainment block, and we're here.
Right, okay.
So all of this is about people being invited, coming here,
Yeah.
and if there were very important people, they might get a chance to sleep. This was predominantly a system that was used in those days, but slowly dying out, of inviting the king and queen to come and stay, and that happened. But unfortunately, Curzon passed away before they actually were able to make the visit.
So who were the sort of more famous people who came here?
Can't tell you that. I don't know.
Well, they were pretty
I mean, Samuel Johnson,
important.
to name
right,
one. I
weren't
mean, yeah, I mean, they would invite lords and ladies, and but I couldn't reel off a series of names.
fabulous, this, isn't it?
Well, it's fully restored. That's the thing. Since it transferred to the National Curzon Seminary, about 15, 16 million has gone to restoring it from donations and whatnot. Yeah. So it's and what you see is what we hear in the South.
With my bag. You are?
We're nowhere near hitting anything.
Well, whatever, I'm not going to see.
Look at it. Oh. You've got a baby carrying.
Oh, no one told me to pour it in a lot.
Yes, very nice.
It's based in Venice. No, not Venice. It's based in Venice, Florence, and Greece. But the architect of that just come back from the ground. So this influence in the family. So they've got a very temple, Greek Rome, and mythological pillars and stuff.
Ceilings as well,
Yeah, they are, aren't they? Yeah, it's just features. It's the floorboards and ceiling of the great architectural pieces. This is modern, this is chicken. When they finish it, it's
No chefs?
Chairs are in there, and then it's separate. So the dining table is largely furniture, it's fairly modern, certainly after the Georgian period. Yeah. Well, not really. You've got just a big board of trestles and just stacked there.
Just out of interest,
Yeah.
would this be like just for like state dinners and things?
The whole building was for entertaining
Ah.
It wasn't for living in, because the family lived in the family wing, which is right down the bottom there.
The sort of private bit down there.
Yeah. That way, as you came in, do you see the restaurant wing?
Yes.
That was the kitchens. The restaurant was okay.
So, okay, so there's like kitchens and servants, or
Yeah. And the other wing would have been the family wing where the family lived. So this was only probably only used in summer. Open in summer, would have been for entertaining guests. A show-off place, basically. So.
Yeah, because I got the marble hall and the saloon, especially were like.
It's
just fancy.
It's just a show-off. That's all.
And I was assuming, this would be a bit too much for everyday dinner.
No. They can afford it, I wouldn't think. But funny, because up to about 1954, there was no kitchen in the family wing. There was been food in the kitchens here. That was service. On the corridor here. It's about a 5-minute walk downstairs.
Parade all the way through.
You see the logic behind it.
It's a bit long to get a snack though, at night, isn't it?
A bit more formal than that.
Did they always have like a fascination? Because there's a lot. I know at the time there's always the fascination with sort of Greek mythology.
Yeah, it was a grand tour thing. It was that was where they went to. After finished school, probably almost their gap year. You know, when they went around and lost their oats in the brothels of Rome. You know, and think, well, of course that was the whole idea. You know, and they've come back with this sort of classic cultural influence.
Amazing.
And that's why you see, and a lot of the pages would have been brought as a job lot when they built a place, send their agent off to Italy or Greece and buy 5,000 paintings from the painting factories of Venice and Rome and Florence.
Well, it's a better way of spending your money than a super yacht, if you ask me.
Oh, well,
At least you leave something.
That's a similar thing, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you very much.
All the way around the estate, and they left the undesirable ones out. Now the reason I'm telling you, just other than a historical fact, particularly if you are from Scotland, when you go down the trophy corridor, you'll see the mortar that he left in his haste to get away from England and back to Scotland. It's a dark corridor, there's a miserable bit of writing which you can barely read, so I think I add that so that it makes it more interesting. And I'm sure you know what a mortar is. You've got a cannon which fires out like that, and a mortar is like a chimney pot, and it fires up and over. The other thing I worry is that visitors may not understand the link with Scarsdale and Curzon, because some of the servants say Scarsdale, some say Curzon, and visitors may leave thinking they're two different families. No, they were French, they were the Curzons. They came over in 1066, they supported William the Conqueror. Anybody who supported William the Conqueror, as you know, got more money in their coffers and more land. At the time that Lord Curzon inherited this house, he was taking £10,000 a year. And a gentleman with a magic machine calculated that, and that came to 3 million. So he was taking 3 million a year. He could well afford to have this built. But he wanted a higher title, and he wanted a title related to Derbyshire, so that would make him more acceptable. Baron Scarsdale had been dormant for 30 years. He bought it. So in 1758, you've got the first Baron Scarsdale, you've also got the Curzons going through, so it doesn't matter whether a servant says Scarsdale or Curzon, it's the same family, and in some instances, it's the same person. Now, why I'm dressed in this is when you leave, you'll see the portrait of Mrs. Garnett, the housekeeper. Most important lady. If you have 5 minutes, she arrived here when she was in her 40s. Now that's old. A lot of people didn't live until they were 40. Mrs. doesn't mean you're married. Mrs. was a title, but out of respect, at a certain age, and as a housekeeper. Downstairs, her rooms were divided into a sitting room and a bedroom. She had keys to the stills. She ruled all the female servants. She got up an hour later than the rest of the servants to check. They'd laid the fires and the trays for Lord and Lady Scarsdale, and she's buried by the church door. But most importantly, she was educated. And as they know, they didn't educate Georgian girls. I'm sure you know that when you see portraits of families, you see little boys in frocks. That's so they can go out to play without the risk of being abducted and held to ransom. Nobody is going to abduct a little boy. They have no value. The only use a little girl had in the 18th century was to find someone wealthy, marry him, and have babies. The boys have got to be protected because they're going to inherit everything. When they were about 7, they were put in breeches. She was 85 when she died, still overseeing the servants and as a companion to Lady Scarsdale. But with all the resources available to the National Trust, including the archives, they cannot find anything about her life before she arrived here as an educated housekeeper in her 40s. But she was more than just educated, because Lord Curzon inherited the plot in 1758. By 1765-66, shows you the piano noble was ready for visitors, and she had the knowledge that she could step into Lord Scarsdale's shoes from day one. And she took the likes of Dr. Samuel Johnson, Walpole, Boswell around. And there's a letter in the files from Boswell saying he was greeted by this well-dressed, educated housekeeper, the likes he'd never met before, who showed him all the best aspects of the paintings and the furniture. And Dr. Samuel Johnson, I don't know if your local folks lived at Lichfield, not far away, a very acerbic gentleman. If you're tired of London, you're tired of life, was his comment, wasn't it? Well, he was one of the first visitors because he wanted to know what was happening on his patch. Mrs. Garnett greeted the visitors here, and this is deliberate. It's a very miserable, unassuming door. And this is deliberate on Robert Adams' part, because when you come through this miserable door, you don't expect to see the marble hall. So he arrived, he stood in, he looked at the marble hall and went, well, it'd make a good town hall. And that was his comment. But when asked about Mrs. Garnett, he said she's an excellent articulator, and coming from somebody who compiled the English dictionary, wasn't over fond of women either. Once again, that is praise indeed. But we don't have any paperwork of her life before she arrived here in her 40s. I mean, I've worked here for 25 years and I've sort of got my own thoughts about it. But what is interesting, when the National Trust, or maybe it was Keddleston, decided that Mrs. Garnett added to the house, because I talk to children, and as splendid as it is for children, you know, when I talk about the 18th century and chamber pots, they're much more interested, you know, because they know the life then. So, yes, I do bring interest for children. But they researched Mrs. Garnett's costume. So what I've got on is not a costume made by a dressmaker who bought a few yards of brown fabric from Derby. They researched it, and its accuracy is amazing. It's the correct fabric. I don't know if there's any dressmakers who want to, they're quite welcome if they want to, but it's the correct fabric. It weighs a ton. It's, pardon?
It looks very heavy.
Yeah, I just want sympathy. with the heat, so I can do this, you see. I'm not allowed a fan with a battery because it's not 18th century, so I have to do it. But it's fully lined, it's got petticoats. They put padding on the hips, which I must confess I took out. I've got my own padding, I thought they never know. Now, what they did, and they didn't have to, is the back. Because, as the housekeeper, it's covered up. I walk around with a shawl, nobody sees it. So, you know, the accuracy is amazing, but the other bit, finally, is the frill on the bottom. And anybody work out what the frill is? It's never shown in costume dramas. The lady of the house, she might want a yard of ribbon, so she goes to the haberdashers. When she returns, she hasn't had roads and pavement, she's been wading through mud. She's going to get to her front door. She doesn't want all that mud all over her carpet. So the maid will greet her. It's detachable. And you never ever see it. So the maid will remove the muddy frill from the bottom and the lady can enter her house. Now, she might want to go out again in the afternoon. And this couldn't be laundered, but several frills could have been made. So another frill will be added. And then the lady can go out again. It's held on by hook and eye, and they actually discovered some hook and eyes from the 16th century in London. So they've been around quite a time. Buttons wouldn't work because the weight of the mud could easily open up a button and then she'd be in trouble if she got into a coach. So it's a hook and eye that has held it on. But that is the accuracy. As I say, when you see the portrait as you leave, you only see the front view of it. But everything is 100% accurate. It feels like it when it's all.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. thank you for starting.
Just out of interest, how many servants or people would have worked here back
It
then?
varies. Well, from Mrs. Garnett's point of view, because the house was only open in the summer months, obviously because of the light, so she would probably have had maybe maids immediately under her, probably 15 to 20, but then when the house closed, then this would all been shut down and they would have been reduced maybe to about 4 or 5, just to keep the house ticking over for Lord and Lady Scarsdale.
Did the family live here permanently then?
Well, they never lived here.
I mean,
they lived in the West
then
Wing.
that's why.
Oh, yes.
So no,
yes, that was the first bit that was built for the family. I mean, although it says it's Robert Adam, the original plans and approval of the plans were done by Brettingham and Payne. You know, historically, if you know. And I don't know why, but it often happened that Robert Adam used to come in and take over. He did it a lot, didn't he? And he did it with Brettingham and Payne. So although they say it's Robert Adam, the front here is not. It's Brettingham and Payne. So when he arrived, he could actually have had all this demolished and redone, but he didn't. He's left it. So the north front is not Robert Adam, but everything else, including the pleasure grounds, that's all Robert Adam.
So is that why you get the sort of, as you're saying, the slightly, I don't want to say dour outside
It's
a
a
bit,
bit
but
different.
yeah, straight into
and
the.
then you have yes, the south there is, you know, curved and all
Yeah.
that. That is Robert Adam.
Makes
but
sense.
This isn't. Yes.
Yeah, because you can see the two different architectural
That's right.
stylings.
That's right.
Brilliant.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
I mean, if you have any questions, you don't know how far you came through. You were told the village was moved. You heard me talk about that.
Yes.
Right. And now you heard me talk about the link with Scarsdale and Curzon, and you've heard about Mrs. Garnett's history. That's fine. And when you came in, the other bit is because you're halfway round, and I try to make it interesting so that you know, when you return, it's a little bit more fun. When you came in, you saw narrow columns in the Caesar's Hall.
Oh, downstairs, yes.
You were told what they were for.
No.
When Robert Adam designed the house, as the architect it beggars belief that the design was these columns with that expanse there. How he thought these columns were going to support that floor, because the floor underneath there, you've got wooden joists, you've got cement, and you've got sand to level it off.
Yeah.
It weighs 3 buses. So you can see a decade later something had to be done when they could see things happening. And then they added the narrow columns, which have got cast iron cores, in Caesar's Hall. So that is why they've got extra ones, yes.
To keep it with it. Makes sense. Yeah, because is this
They're
actual
alabaster.
Alabaster.
Well, people say, where did they get their money from? Well, they were involved in anything that was going. I mean, later on, they were involved in the canals. But at that time, it was mining. And it's alabaster from Nottingham, just outside Ratcliffe-on-Soar.
Okay.
They came in 2 and 3 sections, and they were smooth. And it wasn't until a decade later that they actually reached them. And if you look really hard, you can see the joins on the columns, particularly if you look at the last 3. There's sort of darker bit where...
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yes?
On the back there.
So that is it. Some came in 2s and some came in 3.
You got like the bottom third of it is darker, and then
That's right.
it goes up. Brilliant. Again, love it. Thank you very much
You're
for that.
very
Much
welcome.
appreciated.
Enjoy your day.
Thank you. old is the book? Oh, sorry, I don't mean to distract if you're...
Alright, no. You can ask as many questions you want. I think this book is late 18th century. We've had a few others where this is a history of book. We've had a few like of Sussex, of Kent. They usually have maps, history of the area, sometimes they have genealogies in as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, basically I'm condition monitoring the books, so we've got, they're just checking page by page if there's any insect damage, if there's any foxing, if there's any mould, and just generally checking the condition of the book. And basically then we've got ones we've checked, and we're going to clean them with a museum vac and then a pony hair brush as well.
Okay.
So these are quite soft, and basically we just brush the dust because it's usually on the tops and the bottom.
Makes sense.
And then the colours we do radially as well. But yeah, we find all sorts in the books as well. I think in one of the other books, I'll just quickly show you actually. We found like receipts.
Oh.
So this one.
So you don't want being filmed? Is that okay?
Yeah, it's fine. But in this book, we've actually got a receipt. So it's 1901, and I think the book's 18th century, and I think he paid £14. But this is Lord Scarsdale, so Nathaniel Curzon, and he'd been Viceroy for about 2 years. I think he was Viceroy in 1899. So, but £14 for a book in those days, quite a lot of money.
It's a bit, well, what's it a book of, if you don't mind asking?
Oh, this one. I think again it's a history of book. So it's a history of a county. Let me have a look.
I love the sort of inlay paperwork as well.
Yes. So histories and antiquities of the county of Essex.
Oh, okay, nice.
And it's the second volume. So.
Well, the first one was a page turner, so you know, don't wait the second one to come on.
To be fair, I think one of the books I was working on, I think last week, had annotations all the way through, and I think Lord Scarsdale didn't really like the book very much. The way how I knew that was because it had like annotations all the way through, like crosses and things, but at the end it was, this book is rubbish. It's like...
a bit of museum book review.
Exactly. You should have put it at the front, to be fair. So...
Do you do them in cycles, like a continually, or do you just do them like once every so many years, or?
Well, we're trying to do it in a cycle. The problem is we've got different projects going on. So I think we've got a few months for this project. And we're doing Cabinet A, Cabinet B, Cabinet C. Although we're a bit optimistic because it takes a very long time to check page by page and note everything down. But yeah, it's good fun. You find all sorts of things in there.
I can imagine, yeah. Amazing. Brilliant, thank you very much for that. I'll stop interrupting your work now.
But you can still keep going back to it